Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I'm your host, Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Meagan Thompson-Mann. And hey, guys, it's our 50th episode. We did it. I can't believe it. I think we actually are about to hit our 1-year anniversary as well, which is pretty good for two slightly disorganized people.
Yeah, because this is the podcast where we don't know what we're doing. And to be able to knock out 50 episodes in basically a year, that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like we're overachieving. We
Yes.
might have to change to the podcast that kind of sort of knows what it's doing. And that would be sad.
But nothing. We have a brand to protect. We can't do that now. We owe that to our fans. And also, Kirk really doesn't know when his vacations are taking place.
One day I'm going to figure out how to read a calendar, but I'm just exercising the brand. That's what I'm doing.
True.
I barely know what I'm doing.
Chaos
If
in,
If
chaos
it wasn't
out.
for my wife, things would not happen around here.
So, Kirk, how was your vacation and how's your writing?
My vacation was great. We went to Hawaii and did some scuba diving, hung out with family. It was very nice. It was very relaxing. It was long overdue. We haven't had a big vacation for a while, and so it was really nice.
And writing?
Writing is, I'm still editing, and I have a little bit of news.
Mhm.
This is something that has been sort of there's a couple of things that's going on here. The first part of which is that I am now once again agented. I am with Talcott Notch. My agent is Tommy Dean. So that's really cool. There's a second part to this. I still can't talk too much about it. I can't really talk at all about it. I love being mysterious though. So I'm going to tell you, I can't talk about it.
Still vague.
I'm going to be a little vague, but who knows? Maybe next episode.
Oh.
Maybe on episode 51, I'll have a little more news. Oh, I probably won't. Maybe 52. 52 would be a nice one, right?
That would be a
Nice.
very good one.
So maybe episode 52.
I don't hate Tommy, even though he rejected me as a client. There's no bad blood. It seems like a very good match. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you found a good place to land.
So how's your writing going, Meagan?
I thought that I would have been writing my final chapter this weekend, but that did not happen. In fact, I wrote another penultimate chapter this weekend.
It's the never-ending story.
I really do think this is the last time, the last one.
Yeah.
That episode helped me a lot in focusing and understanding why what I was writing was not the last chapter. That there's a difference between a story ending and a story coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So I rethought how I was going to get to the actual end of the book and found a route that I'm happier with that preserves the ending that I always wanted. Unfortunately, I got a little waylaid on my way towards the end and started editing a part of the book that is not the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was like, I've already written this. This is so good. And I also made the mistake of reading my first book, which I'm going back to querying actively as soon as I have done the first draft of this book, and was like, God, this is a really good book. It's so polished. Book 2 is never going to be as good as this. I should just give up. I should just end book 2. It doesn't matter. It never needs an end. If I never get to the end, I'll never know how bad it is. So I went back to book 2 and I am soldiering on, and maybe next weekend will be really done. I was supposed to be done with this in May, by the way. That was the whole plan. It's August, whatever. I'm not going to hate on myself too much for this. Plenty of other people
hate on yourself.
No.
Meagan, I give you a lot of shit for this, but really the book is done when it feels done to the writer. And if you're not ready to be done with it, then you would be doing yourself a disservice. You would be doing the book a disservice by actually trying to just artificially wrap it up.
This is
Go with God.
This very
But
generous
finish the
and
damn book,
eloquent
too.
Yes. It's a very generous and eloquent way of saying finish the damn book already. And I'm not going to be mad at myself because I've got a lot of other people to be mad at this week. So, hi, it's August. We're recording on August 2nd, but you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was February 2nd, Groundhog Day, because guess what? Remember Shy Girl? Remember that whole thing we talked about with Shy Girl earlier this year? Well,
Mhm.
um, if Shy Girl Redux blew up again this week with more AI accusations, more Pangram, AI checker, more debut writers of color with splashy book deals out there. I have a big old Charlie Day murder board, and I'm going to share it with everyone. We could subtitle this episode Meagan Does Journalism.
There you go.
I'm not a journalist. So, but what I am is a lawyer, and when I see something that looks funky and weird, of course I'm just going to just tug and tug and tug, and I'm going to start making connections and building my like evidence wall brick by brick. I will preface all of this by saying this this information comes out of certain deductions and inductions that I have made from looking at published pieces on the internet this week, both from reputable sources and from social media. So there is going to be a big allegedly in front of a lot of this stuff. I will be very clear about that, about when I am just making educated guesses. But, and you may come to very different conclusions than I did, but I don't think anybody is going to be surprised when I say that the dead hand of capitalism has been very, very active for a dead thing this week.
Mhm.
And I've been angry, very angry. So allow you to draw you in. Allow me to draw you into my web of fury.
Well, and as mentioned, I've been on vacation, so
Yeah.
I I I'm still playing a little catch up with all of this and everything that I read. You've been sending me links.
Of
I
lengths.
I've been reading threads and I'm just like, "Oh my god, like what it's just this tidal wave of, you know, the lettuce diarrhea thing."
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've spoken enough on this podcast about the infiltration of AI writing into bookish spheres and
Mhm.
how in general, I think that the community has been quite good in expressing its preference for human generated work. I think that is a noble end.
I agree.
And also people are pretty good, I think now about sussing out what is obviously AI generated and what's not. We've learned the tells and that the tells aren't necessarily M dashes or rules of three or it's not X, it's Y, that there is a kind of soullessness and flatness of tone that comes through in AI writing that is, it's just a turn off, I think, to a lot of people. You don't even need to be that
Well, it's
discerning of
boring,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
humans are weird and messy, and that's why we make cool shit. Also really bad shit, but a lot of cool shit. So that's what the community is doing right. We will come back to this at the end in hot goss, but has been a lot of AI witch hunting demanding proof from writers that they are not using AI,
Yeah.
right? So
And it really astonishes me that the same people, and I'm one of these people who are saying AI bad in the writing space, right? That these same people that are just like pounding the pulpit and really going after authors who allegedly are using AI and then using an AI created tool as evidence that these writers are using it. I mean, it's almost it's Monty Python-esque in its witch huntery. It's the writer must weigh as much as a duck type logic, and it blows my mind that this is even
No one expects the AI Inquisition. So
That's right.
last year, at the end of last year in October 2025, a preprint of a study written by a number of university professors dropped. I believe that the lead author is based at Stony Brook University in New York. And there are also researchers from Columbia Law, University of Michigan, and MIT involved. They analyzed over 14,000 self-published genre fiction, we'll come back to that, ebooks that were sold on Amazon between 2023 and this year, 2026. They ran the full text of these books through Pangram, which we've talked about before in the context of Mia Ballard and Shy Girl, and how Shy Girl had been run through Pangram, and Pangram had come back and said, this is an AI generated book.
And for our listeners who don't know what Pangram is, it is a tool that is marketed as an AI detector, right? It
Yes.
is backed by AI, which is just ridiculously funny to me in not a haha way. It is it's a tool. You feed it a manuscript and it will give you, it spits out a percentage of, how much this text is allegedly AI written.
Yes.
It's heavier and less or whatever,
Mhm.
but it's still the fact that they're using AI to
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 find AI.
detect AI, and it's just it's bad. Go ahead.
It bills itself as being the most accurate AI
Uh-huh.
detection tool out there.
Right, which may be true,
Could
but,
be.
heavily inaccurate might still be the most accurate.
Hmm. Yeah. So what this study found, this is a very long study, and we will put it in the show notes. There are a lot of links. So this study was launched apparently to test to see whether or not the influx of AI generated books on the Amazon market was depressing the sales numbers of human authors on Amazon. I think that's an interesting question.
Sure.
So what they found was that books that had what they call substantial AI text, this was flagged at over 25%, made up 20% of the catalog that they tested, these 14,000 books, but only 12% of the overall sales. So these AI books were selling weekly, WEAKLY on average, but the market share is growing quickly from near zero in 2023 to about 20% of sales like now in mid 2026.
Yeah.
So the number of books that entered the market grew 19 times between 2023 and 2026, but the revenue only grew 9 times. So there are more books competing for proportionately less money. So revenue per book is falling, not just for the AI books, but also for the human books. So that's the dilution claim, that these AI books are diluting it. And they also said that the top selling AI flagged books share more unusual phrases with other books than top selling human books do, what they call rare expressions. What this study doesn't prove is that the AI books actually caused the revenue decline. They explicitly say this is associational, but it then also uses a lot of weasel words that seem to be pointing to it's a cause, like a depressive effect, that it was displacing human books. The authors acknowledge this, but they don't actually resolve it. And they also don't prove that shared phrases necessarily means copying. The rare expressions finding showed some textual overlap with other books, but here's the issue. Genre fiction has a lot of shared language and stock phrases.
Absolutely.
This got
Absolutely.
like there's stock metaphors, there are tropes there are certain bodily descriptions that we're used
Hmm.
to. And the paper doesn't attribute any passage to a specific source at all. So it's not doing that. And they also don't say that Pangram scores, high meaning high AI scores, necessarily means AI authorship. They don't have any, they're not saying that no AI detected necessarily means human written, or nor are they saying substantial AI detected means AI written. Okay. So it's interesting data, but it's not like a verdict on individual books, individual authors. All
But
very
that doesn't
interesting.
matter.
So in March of 2026, they updated their report and they started reaching out. From what I can tell, it was either in March 2026 or in the lead up to March 2026. The authors of the study started reaching out to indie authors and saying, hi, we're researchers who are really interested in helping with the issue of AI books in your sphere. Would you be willing to share with us a copy of your book, a PDF, EPUB, whatever you want? And we're going to use it in helping to kind of stamp out this real problem. A number of authors, and I've got links to share, have said, we were approached. I thought something was icky about it, so I didn't reply. What these authors are saying of the books are saying is that they were not told explicitly in their messages that their books would be run through AI to detect whether or not their own books were AI. They were expecting authors to subject themselves to witch trials without explaining what was going to happen. Okay. So, right. Monday. Okay, it all gets really fast now. Monday, July 27th, The Atlantic published a piece that connected this preprint. I remember that a preprint, if you don't already know it, has not been peer reviewed. Okay. So this preprint that was supposedly full of anonymized findings about these books, this Atlantic piece connected the preprint to Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe, which is a self-pub sci-fi romance that was a huge hit in the indie market that got picked up by a trad publisher. H.M. Wolfe got a 7-figure deal from Simon and Schuster, and somehow, a lot of question mark, question mark, question mark.
Hmm.
The author of the piece was able to connect this underlying data from the Stony Brook study to H.M. Wolfe being accused of Daggermouth being 60% AI generated. How? How? I don't know. The Atlantic then approached Wolfe and Simon and Schuster, who were both adamant that no AI was generated. And full disclosure, I have listened to 5 chapters of the audiobook. For what it's worth, I do not think that this book was AI. It doesn't feel like it to me at all. This is not a genre I read a lot in. I don't read dark sci-fi romance, but it feels like a genre book, a pretty good one. I didn't get the squick. So that was Monday. When July 29th, Pangram, which was underlying the study and also the Atlantic piece, dropped a brand new model, Pangram 4.0, the day after the biggest mainstream press AI detection has ever gotten. This is super cool. Super duper cool. No alarms, no Charlie Day murder board, red string anywhere. Okay, fine, all right. And also, I have subsequently found out that they announced that they got millions of dollars dumped into them. So, okay. So then later in the day on July 29th and into Thursday the 30th, I'm so sorry there's so many dates here. I mean, Kirk, I could use a calendar. What's wrong with you? Sorry. Such an asshole. Sorry.
Well deserved, well
Sorry.
deserved.
Sorry. Sorry.
Yes.
There's a debut thriller called Call Me, I'll Hide the Body by Jerry Falade or Falade. I'm not sure how he pronounced it. This is another 7-figure deal. Like H.M. Wolfe, Jerry Falade is Black. He is Nigerian, who he lives in America. He is currently a PhD student, I believe, in the Houston area. H.M. Wolfe is Black American. And this was a huge deal for him. He's a grad student. He wrote a cool book.
Yeah.
He got a 7-figure deal with Minotaur Books, which is a Macmillan imprint. There were film rights that were heating up with UTA. It was the biggest thing. There were it was like a 14 offers. Like it was some bidding war for this. And everybody's going to love this book. It's about a cleaner, somebody who makes dead bodies disappear, who then moves to America and gets back into the business. He'd been in this role in Nigeria, and he's in it over in America as a grad student, as an African grad student, like Falad, who I do not think is also a cleaner. I'm just going to point that out. So all of this is heating up, but it's also not public. This is all going on behind the scenes. His agents withdrew the deal and said
Yeah.
that they didn't have confidence that the book had not been written without AI generation. And the website broke the story, and then Trade Publication obtained the manuscript and ran it through Pangram. And ran it through and got 99% AI generated. Falade is adamant that he did not use it to write the text. He has subsequently come out and said, I used ChatGPT, I can't remember ChatGPT or Claude, to research some of the scientific elements. I also used it to Americanize my work. Whether or not you consider that to be AI generated, I think that's a moral issue. But okay, so all of that happened in 4 days. Okay, 27th through the 30th of July. And the preprint of this paper got boosted, and Pangram now has tons of press, and Daggermouth, which I forgot to point out, had its release date the day after it got called out by The Atlantic as being 60% AI generated.
Mm-hmm.
And then a brand new debut deal also blown up. Boom. All of that happened in 4 days. It's just my opinion, but it feels like a marketing push. And who gets pushed under the bus? It's 3, we count Mia Ballard, 3 debut Black authors, 2 of whom were from the indie sphere into the trad pub sphere. These are all people who are at the very beginnings of their career, and their power is relatively low. It sucks. Pangram said that her book was 78% AI generated.
And it's worth noting that Pangram isn't that there's no study that says, yes, Pangram is accurate. There's no standard that says Pangram meets these particular standards or whatever. It's just this tech company that has created a product, and they're telling you that it detects AI. They have given no proof. They adhere to no standards. There's no independent review of this thing. It is just these tech bros saying, trust me, dude.
Yeah. What they're measuring is patterns in text, right?
Yeah.
So it's patterns in text that statistically correlate with AI output. It's my note here is that it is a probabilistic text classifier. It is not the ultimate arbiter, ultimately. So the false positive rate that they report for this earlier version, 3.3, that the reporting this week came out of is 0.04%, which sounds great, but this is what they call a window level rate. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the book itself.
Mm-hmm.
So books have hundreds or thousands of these windows, these kind of like, I don't know, like niblets, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you keep running this, errors start compounding. So you could have a book that may have one phrase that feels off to the AI, because that's what Pangram is, AI, that it starts building on and starts building up its case for itself. And the study's methodology, this preprint that is talking about Pangram's capabilities, they they grouped AI generated, clearly AI generated work with moderately AI assisted work. That moderately AI assisted work can mean things like using AI to polish your human writing. I don't exactly know if that means that things like Pro Writing Aid or AutoCrit, which are tools that many authors use without necessarily even thinking
That's right.
one way or the other about it. I mean, I use AutoCrit to help me with my repetition.
I've taken a Grammarly suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I have taken suggestions from AutoCrit about my grammar, where I'm just like, oh, that feels clunky, and like kind of looked at it and ran it through AutoCrit, which we are sold as being okay, that this is all right. But I don't know. Is this study showing that that's not okay? And now my book is going to show up as being 60% AI generated, just like Daggermouth? And it doesn't, the paper doesn't like actually show anything more than a correlation between AI detection scores and market patterns, right? It it doesn't prove causation, and they're very clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is this study for? Does it even answer the question that it set out to solve? I just don't see the proof that these books are necessarily destroying the market for AI authors. And even if it is, why throw the net so wide that human authors are going to get caught in it because we don't really understand what the methodology is? Because Pangram is a locked box for good reason. It has proprietary prompts in it. They want to
Sure.
make money. It's a tool. It has genuine uses. It not a court of law. It was not designed to be used in these ways, but it's being used in these ways. And I want to talk about the rare expressions thing for a moment, and something that particularly bothers me. So the authors of the study found that the top selling AI flag books shared unusual 5-word or longer phrases with other books. And this is being reported as proof of copying. When I say copying, I mean copying from works that the authors of
Plagiarism.
that the
Mm-hmm.
authors of the study believe to be AI generated works,
Yeah.
right? But this isn't necessarily proof of copying, but what it does show is that there is textual overlap. Where do we see a lot of textual overlap? You see it in genre fiction, because we have stock phrases, we have tropes, we have metaphors that reappear. Romance is particularly, I won't say guilty of this, but
Mm-hmm.
there's only so many ways that you can talk about human anatomy joining in certain ways.
That's
Okay.
right.
So so the two phrases that were cited from Daggermouth that were cited in the Atlantic piece were, "Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd," and "They collapsed together, a tangle of sweat-slicked limbs and racing hearts." I don't know about you, but that shit looks kind of normal to
uh,
me.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've been reading longer than 6 months in the genre, you're going to run across those phrases, very similar phrases, like, blood pounding in your ears, your heart racing, like all of these are staples of the tropes.
Yeah, it is. And,
It,
and some genres have more tropes than others. AI is trained on human writing. And what did they scrape
yeah.
the most? They scraped um, publicly publicly available writing, fanfic, archive of our own, AO3, totally scraped. Went straight into pirated works, indie authors often.
Yeah.
So if indie authors sound like indie authors, or indie authors who came up through fan fiction sound like other indie authors, wow, how surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely surprising.
Mm-hmm.
We are capable of copying other authors without even realizing that we're doing it. So what does this prove? Except for that you have a cool parlor trick. That's about it. I don't.
With AI and Pangram, AI game knows AI game,
Hmm.
right? It's going to see these phrases that it itself was trained on and say, "Whoa, yes, of course."
Yeah.
It's so
Except,
dumb.
yeah, there's a concept in criminal procedural law, in American law, that in search and seizure, if you obtained something in an illegal fashion, that information, that evidence is tainted. It's called the fruit of the poisoned tree. So when you start off with an LLM that taught itself by stealing, everything that comes out of that model, including Pangram, which is training itself on these models, is also producing fruit from a poison tree.
Yeah.
So why should we trust any of it? We keep saying it over and over and over again, but because this is so fucking irritating. And it is taking advantage of people who are not inside of the system, who don't know enough about the mechanics of writing, the philosophy of writing, and putting it out on a national or an international stage and saying, look at all these bad, naughty writers. They're so
Mm-hmm.
unoriginal. Everything sucks. Buy our product. And then you'll know that you're reading something that sucks. Um, why not just fucking read and decide for yourself? We decided as we're talking through this that we're going to talk about more on another episode because there's so much more, and there's more that's coming out every single day right now.
Yeah.
Okay, true confessions time. I was curious about testing Pangram. This is some time ago. So this is the older 3.3 model that was used on Daggermouth, and also I believe was almost certainly used on the Jerry Falade book. So I like to test tools to see if I can, pick them apart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I I don't know, like my bullshit detector was just like super high after the whole Mia Ballard thing. And so what I did was I took a chunk of my own writing. So this was taken from what I affectionately call the Melliverse, my 500,000 words, which are available on the internet, so they can never be published commercially. I downloaded all of the posts that are out there and made a great big fat PDF file. And I took about 1,000 words from kind of like the middle of this. So not when I was really rough at the beginning, but I was starting to hit my stride a little bit, and I put it into Pangram. And because you get 4 free shots of 1,000 words a day, I believe. So I put it in and I got 100% human. Sweet. Yeah, you're right. Those are 100% my shitty words. Well done. Okay. Then what I did is I took those 1,000 words and you can pillory me for this. I put those 1,000 words into Claude. And then I also gave Claude this 500,000 word extravaganza and said, I want you to write me 1,000 words, knowing all of this backstory that you see in this huge file, and write me 1,000 words about this topic that are in the 1,000 words that I'm giving you. And it
Mhm.
spits something out. I read it. I'm like, it's not my voice. I'm doing an experiment. Today I'm a scientist. Also, just like I'm a journalist. So, yeah. So I put that in Pangram. 100% human.
How
Okay.
about that?
Then I took those 1,000 words that Claude had generated for me and I tweaked them and made them sound more like myself, but still using a lot of a lot of the generated text into Pangram. 100% human. Well, flash fiction is pretty fucking short,
Mhm.
so articles can be very short. I think I write okay, but I know I'm not the greatest writer in the world. I also don't think I'm the most clever person in the world. But that I tricked it repeatedly doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the product.
Well, and when I hear their potential excuse that, well, it has to be a longer work, what it sounds to me like is, well, our model needs constant stabs at this thing to eventually match some kind of pattern and say, oh, yeah, of course it's AI. And because just statistically, this is how AI works. I mean, it's all statistical.
Mm,
And so eventually, yeah, if I write 100,000 word novel, I mean, probably I'm going to stumble across some of the little phrases that it considers AI,
mhm.
and it's some genres are tropier, some genres are, I mean, we call them bodice rippers for a reason, right? So
Yeah.
if my romance has bodices in it and we're ripping them, I'm probably going to get dinged for AI on it because the books that it was trained on also did those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. It's it's a theft machine. And some of these costumes that the theft machine wears are more convincing than others,
Yeah,
you know? So just because Pangram is saying, trust me, I'm on the side of the angels, doesn't mean that you should trust them.
no.
It's so fucking cynical. Just the timing of all of this is so fucking cynical. And as we were talking, Kirk and I realized like we need another episode to talk about all of this in because I haven't even really gotten to talk about the Atlantic article in depth or what happened with Jerry Falade. I just gave a very high level overview and things are
Yeah.
changing. There's more shit that happened overnight before we started recording this.
And we really wanna tackle the guts of
It
this.
this and I also want to rant about, why critical race theory is for everybody. And because why is it, without giving too much of the next episode away, why is it that it's Black authors who are getting,
Mhm.
getting the brunt of this when there are white authors who are very open about their AI use, some of them completely unapologetically,
Mhm.
and some of them just like, my bad, who are not getting the kind of blowback. This is a developing story. Um, we have more to talk about this, and I don't want to compress it because I think this is a much bigger conversation that we really have time for this week. And I
Agree.
want to talk. I think it's time to talk about some hot goss, which touches on this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this week there have been many demands by so-called self-professed readers on social media who are demanding that writers prove that they don't use AI in writing their books. So they want writers to show their notes, show their process, show their all their drafts. You need to be able to talk about your book on command and in whatever
Mhm.
way that they want you to talk about it. You show your outlines. You need to perform your authenticity on cue.
You need to record yourself writing.
Yeah. I this is not a proctored examination. I can't write when there are other people in the room. Ask Shane. He'll come in and, be like, "Yeah, writing?" And yes, yes, I am. And that's when he's like, "Hi, I'm super cute. pay attention to me. I'm so nice. I'm your loving husband. And I'm just like, fuck me. And I know he's doing it to be cute, right? I love this man. I know he's doing it to be cute, but I can't write when there are other people in the room.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I'm the same way. In fact, I can barely write with a dog in the room. Yeah.
no, I've got a geriatric cat who comes in and has his sundowning moments and starts yelling at me. And I'm just like, dude, little dude, leave me alone. I can usually shut him up with treats though. It's so crazy because there is no way to win this game. The goalposts move every time. So it's
Yeah.
like, show me your notes. Like,
Mhm.
and there are writers on social media who are saying, I just can't deal with this. I'm just going to start showing my notes. I'm going to make sure that I save every copy of every time I sit down, I'm going to save that version and I'm going to put it to one side. So yeah, okay, maybe I have like 250 files at the end of my first draft. I'll at least be able to show it. Or I email myself my manuscript every day so I don't lose anything. Now that's good as backup,
Yeah.
because you should, we talked about it before, you should never rely on one way of storing your manuscript. But to be able to prove to, like, I don't know, like
And
Karen from Minneapolis,
that's the crux of it too, is who are you proving it to?
who?
Who gets to demand this from you? It is a game that you cannot win and you should refuse to play.
Yes.
Definitely, keep the notes that you want to keep
Oh,
backups,
yeah.
whatever works for your workflow. But once you start thinking that you have to document your process for some imagined judge and jury,
Yeah.
you have lost.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to need it for your agent because of what's happening to Jerry Falade. You need to be able to document everything. Agents are going to start asking for everything. I'm like, when I am writing, when I'm taking notes, some of my notes are on my phone. They're voice notes that I make when I'm driving and something occurs to me that I can't then find because I have no idea how to find my notes on my phone. I had spent an entire half an hour last weekend trying to figure out where the hell my notes went to. Great. I write myself Post-its. I write myself notes at work. I write myself stuff in Word at work. I research stuff, but I don't save all the links of things. I just go on Google and I have tabs up. I have a whole bunch of open tabs that every time I open up Chrome, because I'm evil and I use Chrome, they open up for me and they have the local weather in a particular month in 2008, or a encyclopedia of a college. These are not easily compilable. Why should we do that on top of everything else? Who knows if these people even want to read your books? Why are they doing this? I'm getting really angry now. I am so fucking angry because you're never going to make these people happy. I said this to you before we started, that I feel that this is very interesting, that this kind of inquisition is coming out at a time when fascistic strains of culture are definitely present in American society right now. And not just in our society, but in a number of other societies, where it's like people want to rat each other out. Like, gotcha. And for what? What does it give them? But then what does it give the innocent writer? Why? Why do this? Why ruin someone's career just because you want?
I tell you, I have no interest in having any kind of discussion with the people that are kind of demanding this type of thing, because again, there will be no pleasing them. You will never please them. I have no interest in engaging with them except to ridicule them. But for writers who are having to deal with this, again, I say, don't play the game. That's the only way to win, is don't play the game. And if you do try to play the game and you put yourself in this position where you're allowing other people to be the judge, jury, and executioner of your literary career, there's no law book that they're following. The
No.
goalposts, you show them notes and they're going to be able to say, well, you could have made that by AI. Here's 10 years worth of notes on my debut novel. Oh, you could have had Claude generate those.
Yeah.
Here's a video of me writing every single day. Oh, deep fake.
Yeah.
It just,
Fake,
it
can't
would,
see your screen. I want to see every word as it comes out. I want to look in your brain. I want to x-ray you.
It will never,
No, no.
ever, ever stop.
Yeah,
Don't
there
give
is no.
them the oxygen.
The depressing thing is that you and I have both seen writers particularly on threads who have said, I'm changing how I write. I'm
Mhm.
going to start documenting how I write in different ways. Now, that could be good. Maybe it'll help these writers in some way.
Sure.
But why do it because some imaginary person may not ever want to see your book is
Right.
saying this is the only way to do it?
If you're doing it for
Yeah,
you, more power
yeah.
to you. But
People who are changing the way that they write because they're so terrified of being accused of using AI. So like, oh, I'm cutting out all of my M dashes. Oh, I'm, never going to use another rule of three. So what does this do? It ends up flattening language. It ends up making us more like AI in some ways
Mhm.
because we are removing our voices. We are mm, kind of making them middle of the road and mediocre. And humans are cool and weird and bad and wonderful. And we want to hear all of those voices. We don't want to hear ones that all sound like each other because what's the point of that? Um, Entertainment should be diverting and also different. Nobody wants the same thing over and over again. You want different flavors of the same thing over and over again. So I told you my great money making idea for writers this week because capitalism is evil. I thought, why can't writers be more evil? So if readers are demanding that writers perform their writing under conditions that conform to specific exacting criteria that are set by the particular reader, writers should set up an OnlyFans. This would be a G or PG rated performance, no nudity, unless the nudity is being written about at that time. And again, it would not be visual, it would only be, on the page. So swearing would bump this rating up a little bit or down a little bit, and the writer would get paid for these performances, right? So the more you tailor your performance to your reader, the more that reader has to pay you. So
Sure.
yes, I think this is a profit model that writers can exploit, and I am calling it the fuck you pay me system. You are welcome, writers, and thank you, assholes, for giving me this brilliant idea. I will not be doing it because there's a reason why we don't do this as a video podcast. I don't really like being on camera.
And my first drafts are atrocious. They're they're not something that you want to read. They're not something that would, interest any reader to just look at this just garbage poured onto the screen. It's not for months that garbage turns into something, that I like to think
Yeah,
as well written and
I need time to polish my turds. And
absolutely.
look, not to kink shame, I'm sorry. Okay. But I think most people don't want to see it. And I'm never going to do this. I look, Pangram thinks that all of my writing is human generated anyway, even the shit that I generate that isn't human. So I'm in the clear. I will add that yes, I understand that my experiment is a moral stain. I'm not proud of it, but I was curious. And I do not use AI to look,
I don't think it's a moral stain. I mean, if you're going to talk about it intelligently,
yeah.
you're going to need to have some familiarity with it, right?
Yeah. I was being a little facetious. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I don't like to see you suffer, Meagan.
No. But thank you, Kirk. I I think that there are always going to be people who are going to believe that you're a witch. And
Mhm.
let's remember what happened, in the Salem witch trials. People died, and then the people that killed them, their ways of thinking died out for good reason.
Yeah, they just started making book talk channels. I'm just here for comic relief.
it makes me think of Jessica Lunt's book that when we had her on, and she
Uh-huh.
was talking about her book and how interested she had been in looking at the witch trials from the vantage point of somebody who was married to an accuser,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which by the way, if you have not read her book, you really need to read her book. We should put a link again in the show notes. It's so fucking good. It's
It really is. Yeah.
these people believed that they were doing the Lord's work, but we realized that they were people in thrall of superstition, and also people who, well, frankly, wanted people's property. But to what end? Kirk, cui bono? Who benefits from all of this? That your
The
thought?
oligarchs.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. Mark Zuckerberg is benefiting from every time there is a Threads bitch fest. I am very proud of all of the authors who came out this week on Threads and other bits of social media and said, "You, no."
I was one of them.
Yes, I also was one of them.
Even took off time from my vacation.
Thank you.
To go in.
It's how you suffer for your craft. If you have on one side, the writers who say absolutely not, and you have purported readers who say, I must, what's the end game here? I actually don't think that the writers are going to do bad out of this one. I think
writers need to put their feet down. They need to refuse to participate in this madness, and eventually it'll just suck out all the oxygen.
They should also, it's good to be hydrated. If you're not hydrating and using sunblock, you should do it now. It's summer in this part of this hemisphere. Hydrate, sunblock. So as we said, this is going to be a two-parter. So hang in there. We are eventually going to get to soggy middles. I realized that I have a soggy middle of my book. And maybe by the time we get there, I actually will be done with my book and able to talk about editing and dealing with my soggy. No promises. Actually, I should have for that episode, when I actually do show up with a complete book, I will do that. Promises kept, promises delivered, or whatever it was that W had.
That's right.
When he was on the aircraft carrier. In the meantime, you can find us on all the evil socials. Trust me, if you are interested in any of this discourse right now about Daggermouth, about Jerry and what's going on with AI witch hunting, the shit is on Threads right now. And there are actually some very interesting and nuanced takes for a change on Threads. If we're on Threads, we lurk on Threads. We don't post on Threads. We are also on Instagram. We are on Blue Sky, which is not talking about this at all, which I find interesting. And you can find the podcast on all major podcast platforms. Thank you to all who listen to us regularly on any platform. Like, subscribe, recommend, all that stuff. It really does help. Thank you for sticking with us for 50 episodes and coming up on 1 year. It's been kind of cool so far. And yeah. And,
what a year.
Yeah. I'm a year older.
I'm only 6 months older. It's crazy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're doing a Benjamin Button and going backwards.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
To a point.
So until next time, we will see you then.
Bye.